Hello, everybody, and welcome to the third episode of Kato's Anime Cafe, where every Monday we sit down and discuss anything and everything anime. I'm your host, Hoodie Song, as always, joined by my partner in crime, Zero. Today's episode is brought to you by the Tax Defense Group. Due to the global pandemic, the deadline to file your taxes for 2019 was pushed back to July 15th, 2020. If you haven't filed for 2019 yet, there's good news. The Tax Defense Group can e-file your taxes for you. The process is quick, and for millions of people, you will get money back. So, what are you waiting for? Call the Tax Defense Group today at 800-850-7973 to get started. That number again is 800-850-7973, and you can visit them online at thetaxdefensegroup.com. Today's episode is also brought to you by Writer Junkie. Are you thinking about starting a business or a side hustle? For all businesses to be successful, you need a website. Writer Junkie offers website development, content writing, and SEO services for business websites. Call Writer Junkie today at 805-587-7966, and you can visit them online at writerjunkie.com. Again, the number is 805-587-7966, or visit them online at writerjunkie.com. Thank you to the Tax Defense Group and Writer Junkie for sponsoring this week's episode. Let's get back into it. Zero, every week on the Anime Cafe, we're going to be taking a look at some of the most popular threads on Reddit's r/anime and giving our hot takes on the conversation. Can you read us the first thread by AdviseMan2020?
Sure thing, buddy. He asks, best shonen arc ever, in your opinion? Mine is Chimera Ant arc from Hunter x Hunter. What an original answer he gave. It created something no other anime could do.
No other anime could do it. It'd be impossible for any other anime to ever be. Listen, if you want to say it's the best, I'm not going to fight you on that. I mean, I don't know if I'd put it as my best, but I understand the argument. But no other anime could ever do it? That's a strong statement.
Definitely.
All right, what are some answers that you have?
I saw a comment that had a couple answers that I liked. Firstly, the Dark Tournament from Yu Yu Hakusho, which is an absolute must when you're having this conversation. You can't go without mentioning the Dark Tournament because it really did set the standard for what a tournament arc should be. Before this, there were tournaments in Dragon Ball. I can't think of any earlier battle shonen that had actual tournament arcs, but this one, it made the tournament the center stage of the entire arc, and it introduced a wide, diverse cast of uniquely powered individuals and just had them going head to head, which is that's good content. It also
here's my issue with the Dark Tournament arc, though. Is as much as I appreciate its input into the conversation, you're like you, or even worse than you, so to speak, is my knowledge of shonen is I don't really have a lot of working knowledge, so I don't know if there's precursors to Yu Yu Hakusho and Dragon Ball as the premier tournament arcs. However, I will say, as someone who went through Yu Yu Hakusho for the first time just a couple months ago, as much as I appreciated aspects of the Dark Tournament arc, mostly the end with the Toguro fight, or Toguro?
Toguro.
I think it's Toguro. Yeah. I'm getting all the letters right. Just the pronunciation's a little off. As much as I appreciated that ending fight and thought it was great, and I also appreciated a lot of the beginning of the Dark Tournament arc, one of the things that I think has been improved upon since Yu Yu Hakusho and Dragon Ball is that tournament arcs have become a lot more variable. There's a lot more, different events going on. And my first experience with this would have been Naruto, but I'm sure some other anime did it as well. And then we go on to see this in My Hero Academia, which is that beyond just having an interesting new cast of characters and a bunch of cool 1v1s, shows like Naruto, shows like My Hero Academia then went on to add different elements of gameplay, different types of fights, not just straight 1v1s, but the tuning exams has a written exam. It has the later on they did Capture the Flag and all that, and then the Forest of Death, there was the scroll thing, and My Hero Academia obviously had the relay race and whatever. I'm trying to think of another show that does something like this. You have any ideas?
Nothing comes to mind. I guess
Hunter x Hunter, the tournament arc in Hunter, and actually this would have been a long time ago too. So this is a good example of probably one that sort of kickstarted this. Is that the Hunter exam, which kickstarts the entire Hunter x Hunter story, is also a little more unique and varied than in my opinion, the Dark Tournament was. Whereas the Dark Tournament was like, I don't remember how many episodes, but like so dozens and dozens of just fights after fights after fights, which on their own might be interesting, but back to back got a little repetitive and tiring. We have something like the Hunter exam, which introduces scaling down the tower and, whatever.
It is true that people sort of expanded on this idea of like introducing uniqueness to the tournament arc by sort of shaking up the format of the tournament and how people get eliminated and the like actual objectives they have to accomplish. However, I don't think that necessarily makes newer tournament arcs better than what we had before, especially something like the Dark Tournament arc. I think saying that it gets stale is a matter of opinion, because in my opinion, I think the recurring characters we see are Team Urameshi, and they have to keep reinventing themselves because everyone is gunning for them. Everyone wants to take out Team Urameshi because it has humans on it or whatever. And they're also like being what's the word? Targeted works. They're being targeted by the tournament organizers who like wanted them to suffer, I guess, and basically made them fight back to back on a couple occasions. And I just think, it's good. Don't call it too simplistic or anything like that, because the Dark Tournament arc is amazing. And
well, I am going to call it too simplistic, and I will say it did run stale for me. I will accept it's all just a difference of opinion, but I mean, so is the nature of the question. If there was just one question, if there was just one answer, we'd only have one comment. But personally, the Yu Yu Hakusho Dark Tournament arc, I don't even think it's the best arc in Yu Yu Hakusho, in my opinion. Well, maybe it ends up being the best arc. I really wish Chapter Black, I wish I could say solidly that is the best arc. I think it kind of gets a little weird towards the end, but I think it started off so strong. So Chapter Black, to me, probably ends up edging out as the best Yu Yu Hakusho arc, even above Dark Tournament.
Didn't have enough Kuwabara.
Is that true? No, Chapter Black had a pretty decent amount of Kuwabara, because Kuwabara had the whole Seaman fight. The arc that didn't have any Kuwabara was Three Kings, is that what it's called? The one where they're all in the demon world?
Yeah, but the Chapter Black is sort of where they started phasing Kuwabara out, because it began with him not having spirit powers.
I suppose there is some truth to that. I would need to check to see how much, but yeah, I guess he was starting to be phased out at that point. Do you have another shonen arc that you particularly love?
This comment also mentions the Namek saga of DBZ, and I'm sure a lot of people wouldn't consider DBZ when they're talking about like the best anime arcs of all time or the best shonen arcs, but the Namek saga was actually really good. Like when I was watching it as a kid, I just sort of remember everyone fighting Frieza and him beating everyone up, then getting his ass beat and transforming, then repeating the process until he reached his final form and got smacked by Goku. But like leading up to that, there was a lot of complexity in like the three opposing forces of Krillin and Gohan, Vegeta, and the Frieza Force. And watching these three interact was, I think, one of the most, if not the most interesting plots that Dragon Ball ever introduced.
I never really got to Dragon Ball Z. I started watching Dragon Ball a couple months ago, just kind of on a whim, I guess. Oh, actually, no. Was it on the list for our Year of Classics or something? Whatever the case was, I was watching Dragon Ball, and I had a fun time for the first arc, and I just sort of fell out of it. And I was planning on skipping ahead to Dragon Ball Z just to watch that for the first time, because somehow I didn't watch that growing up. So I have really nothing to add in terms of Dragon Ball Z. Dragon Ball, though, first arc, I thought that's pretty cool. I would probably, when I think of best shonen arc, it didn't really come to mind because I think there's like a specific thing we're talking about here when we talk about shonen, even if it's not necessarily the broad definition. Like, for example, I probably wouldn't have put certain Death Note arcs on here, even though I probably think Death Note is by a definition or some other one of the best shonen. For the purposes of this conversation, it seemed clear that Death Note probably wouldn't count, so I didn't put any of the Death Note arcs here.
That's fair, but I was going to make my final answer the original 9 episodes of Death Note because, well, he sort of seems to think like, or he sort of seems to be talking about Battle Shonen specifically, but he does just say Shonen, so.
Sure, it's not unfair to say Death Note. But on the note of shonen adjacent at the very least, I do have Haikyuu listed as one of the... Well, basically, I made a long list of shonen that I enjoy and what are the best arcs of those particular shonen, because it was really hard to narrow it down into just a couple. So, but one of the ones that I felt like I wasn't sure if I should put this on the list. It is a shonen. It does embody a lot of shonen ideals. It's just not what people think about when they think of battle shonen. I did put sports anime. I did put Haikyuu. And in terms of arcs, I just put specific games that I liked. So in the anime, I was a big fan of season 2's finale, which was Karasuno versus Abujosai. And then in the manga, I'm not going to get too into it because I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but obviously at some point the battle at the garbage dump does happen, and that for me was one of the best games of the entire series.
I think for Haikyuu, I might not even give it to an actual game, just out of personal preference. I really like that training camp they did, where we got to see members from every team sort of interacting. That was just really fun for me.
Was that early season 2 training camp?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good one, especially because they introduced a lot of really great characters. And I think one of the best things about that training arc, I was going to make a video about this, but I didn't end up getting around to it, was that I was going to compare and contrast the paths of redemption between Haikyuu's team and Kuroko no Basuke's team. And one of the big things I was going to hammer on is like how structurally these shows actually are that people don't really give it credit for, which is that like when Seren Hai from Kuroko no Basuke loses, when they train, it's to face the same opponents they pretty much just fought and just lost to. Not all of them. There are a couple ones that we haven't seen yet, like Akashi. But with Karasuno, they hadn't even gotten close to what the real end point was, which was Nationals. They never even got to the finals of Nationals and then to the teams that they would eventually beat at Nationals. So when they were coming back for redemption, what that training arc had to do was also introduce a lot of opponents that we would meet much later on. So it introduces people like Bokuto and... not introduces, but reintroduces, what's her name? Nekoma. And a lot of characters they ended up reintroducing, or not reintroduce, a lot of characters they ended up introducing that would become opponents, I think become characters that we really love and become honestly fan favorites. Like Bokuto is like one of the best characters in the entire series, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he got he got number 1 in some category in the most recent Haikyuu popularity poll, but I don't remember what exactly.
Yeah, it would not surprise me, especially, and again, not to spoil anything, but where we are in the manga right now, like I'm not gonna say anything. He's very cool in the manga, among many other characters that are very cool in the manga right now.
If you're not reading the manga right now for Haikyuu, you're fucking up.
Yeah, especially because, come on, season 4 is delayed again. Like, you waited 3 years for season 4. You get 12 episodes. They're about to start the next match, which many people consider the best match of the series, and then it gets delayed because of the coronavirus. Just pick up the manga at this point. How could you possibly resist? I don't like manga. I don't like reading manga, and even I could not resist at this point.
What's the one where Tsukishima has that moment where you made the video about?
Oh, that's against Shiro Torizawa. That's the final season 3 match. Many considered the best match that's been animated, and I'm like, any given day I would have given it to that. But Aoba Josai is just, because Oikawa, and I love Oikawa so much, I had to give it to that one. But ask me tomorrow, and it's a coin flip, really.
I definitely do have a lot of love for the Oikawa Kageyama rivalry, and I love to see it.
Yeah. All right, give me another shonen arc you love.
Okay, so we're talking about shonen. I can't go without bringing up Naruto. And in my opinion, the best arc of Naruto is the Chunin exams.
All right, we touched on it a little bit with the Dark Tournament, but go ahead, pitch me. So is this above the Dark Tournament for you? Below it? Where is it?
I would put it above. That's probably a pretty controversial statement, and it sort of sounds like I'm saying that I prefer Naruto over Yu Yu Hakusho, which isn't really the case because Naruto just has lower lows, and I would say Yu Yu Hakusho has higher highs. But
well, here's what I would say is maybe it is a controversial statement. I don't feel that uncomfortable saying that, like, I probably like Naruto more than Yu Yu Hakusho, because as much as I think there is greatness in Yu Yu Hakusho, I think it's hard to deny the fact that, like, it starts to throw in the towel at the end. Like, I mean, Three Kings is not great. I mean, there's parts of Three Kings that's good. I don't hate all of it, but, like, I would be interested to know. I'd be interested in doing some research as to, like, what was happening behind the scenes there, because to me, I felt like Yu Yu Hakusho started going. Yeah,
it seems like he was being compelled to continue the story almost, and
yeah,
I don't have the authority to say that was happening, and I certainly hope it wasn't, because, you know, if they delayed us getting Hunter x Hunter for even 2 minutes, I would go behead everyone at Shonen Jump this very moment. And what was I saying?
I don't know. We were just talking about whether or not Dark Tournament's better than Naruto, or rather Yu Yu Hakusho as a whole is better than Naruto.
Right. I would say Yu Yu Hakusho has a much more charming cast, in my opinion. Naruto characters, they sort of feel like archetypes at times, and a lot of them are annoying. But the Chunin exams itself, like you said, each exam is very interesting. Like the conflicts that the written tests sort of introduce for our cast, and the sort of unique but, like, realistic sort of survivalist approach of the Forest of Death, where it's like, this is something that I would picture a ninja, like, having to endure in this universe, because there are literal ninja wars where you're spending, like, months in the trenches. And of course, the tournament arc itself is amazing. We got Rock Lee versus Gaara as a result, which remains one of the best fights in Naruto. The Chunin exam just has too much going for it. Oh, and Orochimaru. Come on. It's too good.
So I have 2 answers for Naruto. Neither of them the Chunin exams, but if I had a third, it probably would go to that. Or, you know, it's up in the air. I purposefully did not choose a third, but it could have gone on the honorable mentions list for me. But following the Chunin exams, talking about Orochimaru, for me, one of the best Naruto arcs to this day. I still enjoy going back to it, and I don't really enjoy going back to a lot of Naruto, but to this day, I will still rewatch the Sasuke retrieval arc, where in part 1, he is now cursed. He has the curse mark. He's been bitten by Orochimaru, and he gets that talk from Kakashi. It's not enough. He decides to leave the village, and the fucking B squad comes together. Turns out they're the best characters of the entire show. Shikamaru is a fucking godsend. He goes in, he leads these people. There's strategy, there's good 1v1s. It's my favorite trope in, like, all of existence, which is the, you guys go on ahead, I'll handle this, and it turns into that is my favorite trope in anything.
Good to know.
So Sasuke retrieval takes the cake for me on best Naruto arcs in my opinion, by a long shot. And then
before we get to your runner-up,
what do you have to say about Sasuke retrieval? Go ahead.
I was going to say that, similar to you with the Chunin exams, I would probably put this at number 3, and I'm wondering if we have the same number 2.
I would guess not, but it would be very interesting if we did. For me, number 2 is Akatsuki Suppression, which is specific. If that doesn't ring a bell, it's Shikamaru versus Hidan.
Huh. I would not have guessed that. You're right. Well, mine is sort of like the redux of that, which is the Pain arc.
Okay, sure. The Pain arc is good. I was a little hesitant onto what I was going to call the Pain arc, though, because I thought Jiraiya versus Pain could take it, and then there's Naruto versus Pain, and then there's, like, the village versus all the Pain, like, the different little vignettes of different ninjas dealing with their own Pain clone. And I guess if you consider that all one arc, is really, really strong. If you can consider them separate arcs, each one is pretty strong. I wasn't sure how to quantify it in a way that I felt comfortable with. So
Yeah.
I mean, that's definitely on an honorable mention for me.
I would say, if you cut out the Jiraiya part and just have Pain going to Konoha, it's still like easily one of the strongest arcs in the entire show.
I mean, I would agree. I mean, this is you couldn't just do this, but I've heard a lot of talk that, and this is just something I've read. I don't know how true this is, but like that in original plans for Naruto, it would end with Pain in this fight, and like I said, you couldn't just cut it off there because that wasn't actually the plan when they ended up doing it. There's still a bunch of loose threads. But if this was reworked to that being the ending fight, I mean, that 100% works for me. Like the last, the end of the battle where they're all throwing Naruto up in the air, that really does feel like, oh, he did it. They recognize him finally. That easily could be predicted. Like if 10 years from now you're trying to predict the ending, you could predict Naruto's going to defeat the big bad. Everyone's going to throw him up in the air. Everyone's celebrating. Naruto finally realizes his dream, which, on a superficial level is to become Hokage, but on an even deeper level is really just to be recognized, and that's what's happening here. He's being recognized. So, to me, the Pain arc, I mean, yeah, 100%, it definitely would have made, definitely would have made top 5, and then, like I said, any given day could make top 3.
Yeah. So, was Naruto the end of your list for best anime arcs?
I have a couple more. Let me I'll go ahead and throw some out there. So, One Piece, you are not done, or you are not caught up with where I am yet. So the only one you would recognize here is Arlong Park. But the other two I have for One Piece are Water 7 and Marineford. I don't think I even need to defend those to the people who have read it or watched it. Those are some of the best arcs in the entire series. The other ones, I have Hunter x Hunter. I put down York New, obviously, and then from my understanding, this is a kind of controversial take. I think the election arc is like one of the best points in Hunter x Hunter. To me, it's just like the most fun a shonen has ever been, in my opinion. What do you think about the election arc?
That's actually not that controversial. At least in critical circles, it seems like the election arc is pretty popular. Though, in my opinion, that's not the arc I go back to the most. For me, that would just be York New. Or Heaven's Arena, if I wanted something a little lighter. But
really, Heaven's Arena is the one you go back to, or like one of the ones you go back to the most? To me, Heaven's Arena is good, and I think it's a lot better than most people would give it credit for, but Heaven's Arena seems to be one of the most slept on for me, so it seems weird that, I guess not weird, because obviously we both like it, but it's interesting that you appreciate it as much as I do.
Yeah, I mean, I just enjoy, like, Hunter x Hunter's combat a lot, so if I'm in the mood for Hunter x Hunter, Heaven's Arena, it scratches the itch.
Where does Greed Island fall in this for you?
Greed Island is one of my least favorite arcs, honestly.
Yeah, I'm inclined to believe a lot, inclined to agree rather. A lot of people will put up defenses for Greed Island, and it's not that I necessarily disagree with their defenses. To me, it just didn't hit right.
It doesn't hit right.
I don't hate it. It's definitely like I didn't want to stop watching it, and I think it comes together in like the final fight of like the final plan really of like Gon fighting Genthru and Bisky and everything going on in the boulder. I thought that was really good. To me, I could never get into the power system, the change with the cards and all that. I didn't really like it. But within the Greed Island arc, one of the mini arcs that I think is the best of Hunter x Hunter is the dodgeball game. The dodgeball game to me is like the best of the best for Hunter x Hunter.
Definitely. I mean, Razor is such a great, intimidating character, and I wish we got to see more of him at some point. I know that's not really Togashi style, but he just throws out some characters sometimes that are like, man, I hope we get to see this guy, but I know we never will.
Yeah, so a lot of people would probably fight me on this as like, for some reason, why this wouldn't be the case, or like, what the world building ramifications of this might be. But I always thought that after we got the Phantom Troop fighting the Chimera Ant, that we would see other hunters we've met throughout the series thus far having to deal with the Chimera Ants in their own ways. And I always thought it would have been really, really cool to see Chimera Ants get to Greed Island and Razor has to fight them. And I thought, like the Phantom Troop little mini arc they had there, I thought that would have been a really cool couple of episodes.
I'm surprised that nothing like that did happen.
The only reason I could think of like that why that might not happen is I don't know. Like I didn't. If you look at a map, maybe it just doesn't make sense for Chimera Ants to have gotten that far because
You know,
when all
Togashi
said
has
and done, they
maps.
did get pretty contained. So I don't know.
Yeah, that's a likely explanation because Gon was literally like teleported across the realm to get to where the Chimera Ants are.
Yeah. So the only other anime I have here to discuss for shonen arcs, and I was debating whether or not to even put this here because I don't even know if it's one of my favorite shonen, but I felt like it's been a recent enough discussion point for me in the past couple of years that it felt like it deserved a shout out. Was My Hero Academia. I did put the overhaul arc on here. It was one of the first. My Hero Academia was one of the first manga I read. Not the very first. I read a couple, before then. But like when we made the active effort to get me into manga with our old podcast training arc, My Hero Academia was one of the first that we did, or maybe even the first. I don't even remember. And Overhaul was one of the first arcs. So I was like, this is actually great. So I wanted to throw a shout out to My Hero Academia and the Overhaul arc, but I don't know if I'd keep it on the list if I had to start narrowing things down.
I wasn't planning to bring up My Hero Academia, but if Gentle Criminal is considered part of the Overhaul arc, then you know what? It does deserve a mention.
I don't think it does. I don't think it is a part of that arc. I think people would consider that like the festival arc, which is also a great arc. I mean, if you combine festival and Overhaul, I guess I would feel pretty comfortable putting that on the list of greats because Eri watching the concert is really one of the best moments of that show, and it's so for a battle shonen, for one of the best moments of a battle shonen to be this wholesome, people are just relaxing and playing music and a little girl just smiles. I think that is not like it's not unheard of, but it is relatively unique, and I thought that was such a great moment. So if you could combine all of those into one, I guess it's pretty deserving, but I think most people would separate those.
Yeah, that wholesome like school environment, it's really emblematic of how charming Horikoshi's characters are. And my like weakest, but I guess deserves to be recognized, I'd say for Bleach, the best arc is probably the Soul Society arc. People enjoy the Wake Mundo arc, but I think it's a little long. It gets a little crazy. It like starts showing the signs of Bleach declining, which the Soul Society arc, that show was really in its stride. So
there were a couple of, I don't know if we're through your list entirely, but we're through my list, and there were a couple that I was debating whether or not to put on. And I would say the one that I really want to recognize is One Punch Man, because I wanted to double check to see if this could even be on the list, and it seems by certain definitions, it seems up in the air whether One Punch Man is a shonen because it wasn't well, it was a webcomic originally, then it was published in a seinen magazine, and then it was published in English in a shonen magazine. So I personally feel it feels shonen. I'm sure I'd probably get a lot of fight on that. I don't know. I guess it's up to each own's definition. But for me, if you were to count it, I really wanted to put the Sea King arc on my list, but ultimately I decided I don't know if this counts, so I didn't write it down.
Oh, for me, the Hero Hunter arc is honestly, it's weird because when you're talking about One Punch Man, the main character is sort of like a non-factor in a lot of discussions of like the best arc because he's a static character. He shows up, he punches the guy, and he talks about how boring it is. But I mean, the Hero Hunter Garo is an amazing character, and his development and the themes he embodies, it's so good. I can't wait for them to finish this arc in the manga because it's going to be amazing. With Murata's art, it's going to be breathtaking. That guy is godlike.
So that was the only reason why I couldn't really even factor that into the conversation for me, was because as someone who's only watching the anime, we only got 12 episodes of season 2, and it didn't even, like, it's not even close to finishing that arc. So, I'm firmly in the camp that season 2 is a lot better than a lot of people are giving it credit for. I don't even think it looks that bad. I think people like grab specific shots that, yeah, those shots are bad, and it's definitely not to the quality that season 1 was, where season 1 was consistently great. But I think there are definitely moments in season 2 the show looks fantastic. So I'm in the camp that season 2 is better than people give it credit for. But even saying that, this arc's not even close to done in the anime, and as someone who hasn't read the webcomic, as someone who hasn't read the manga, only so much I could say on it. Seems interesting. Hope we get more within the next 5 years.
That's really all we can do is hope. One is like dividing too much of his time between One Punch Man and Mob Psycho. I feel like fans of both series are just getting kind of blue-balled.
Yeah. Are we through your list entirely?
Yeah.
Well, I was not expecting this to happen. I didn't think we'd talk about this for this long, but it does look like we're at the end of our runtime for this episode. So we might have to save the second render thread for next week, which is discussing our favorite first episodes of anime. Any last things you want to throw in before we just close it out here?
I did want to talk a little bit more about the original, or the first 9 episodes of Death Note.
Okay, let's talk about Death Note then.
Okay, so obviously what everyone loves about Death Note is the sort of battle of wits between L and Light. And, I mean, in my opinion, that's only like a small part of the charm of the show. But in these 9 episodes, it really does like carry the show. Just like seeing their non-verbal interactions and like hearing Light's and L's plans to like get closer to the other, and seeing Light like lay the groundwork for the task force turning against L in the long run. Every time I rewatch those 9 episodes, I'm like, this show is so amazing. If it just stayed like this, it'd be the best show ever. And
question: in those first 9 episodes, is that does the Ray Penbar stuff get in there?
Yeah, that's the Ray Penber stuff. That's the Naomi Mistora stuff. And it's also when the police... that's when like the task force gets cut down to the 6 members and they get introduced to L. So all that stuff is in the first 9 episodes. And it is so good.
It's pretty great. I'm not even gonna lie. It's pretty great. Like, it's been a while since I've rewatched Death Note, and even those episodes, like, I do have them distinctly in my memory, where it's like, oh, and then there's the desk stuff where he puts the pen in the rubber, and it's an explosion, and then he has the lead in the door, and he has a piece of paper, and it's oh my god, it's so, the brain on these people is too big.
They're big brains. The big brains on display.
Yeah, and then all the stuff, like I said, with Ray Penbar, that whole deduction element, that is so clean and genius. It is like, I think Death Note is going at all cylinders.
Light manipulating fate with the Death Note it's so good. I don't think he ever does it as well again as he did with Ray Penber.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, I think it is. Again, I didn't put Death Note on my list because of how I felt what we were talking about with Shonen, but because it is Shonen Jump, it is, I mean, by most definitions, it does count. If you are including the conversation, of course that has to take, a high spot on the list.
Definitely.
All right, I think that's going to do it for this week's episode of Kato's Anime Cafe. I want to give a quick shout out again to this week's sponsors. Thank you, Writer Junkie and the Tax Defense Group for sponsoring the Anime Cafe, and thank you to everyone listening. You can catch us uploading every Monday to UCast Studios' YouTube channel or your favorite podcast apps. I have been your host, Hoodie Song, with my partner, Zero. Until next time.
さよなら